point in time, rhinos used to roam freely throughout a majority of the eastern hemisphere, but now very few survive outside of parks and reserves. Rhinos have a horn on the end of their snouts, which makes them victim to greedy poachers. According to Stop Wildlife Crime, these horns are literally worth their weight in gold due to the fact that possessing these horns is a great status symbol, and their horns are also falsely passed off as a cure for cancer. These highly demanded horns are sought out continuously despite rhino hunting being outlawed globally. Due to this continued poaching, these creatures have become endangered. Although these animals have a serious decline in population, there is still hope for conserving the rhinoceros species. Rhino poaching presents a severe problem for the environment and the human community, but if individuals support and donate to the organization called the World Wildlife Fund, rhino conservation could be a success. Scientific Services Sam Parks in South Africa reported the poaching of African rhinos has increased exponentially from an average loss of 0.17 rhinos per day in 2007 to 204 rhinos per day in 2012. The World Wildlife Fund says although the decrease of the rhinoceros population can be attributed to their habitat loss, reduced genetic diversity, natural disaster in their habitat, and disease, poaching is still thought to be the overall cause for the huge loss of rhinos. There are 5 rhinoceros species. There's the Javan, the black rhinos, the white rhinos, the greater one-horned rhinos, and the Samaritan rhinos. And they have all become serious threats to extinction due to this abundance of poaching. The World Wildlife Fund reports that white rhinos, the largest of the rhino species, have become critically endangered with a population of, or a bit over 20,000, while black rhinos have also become critically endangered with a population of fewer than 5,000. The greater one-horned rhino, it's also called the Indian rhino, is categorized as vulnerable with a population of 3,555. And another critically endangered rhino species, the Samaritan rhino, has less than 80 rhinos in existence. And the one that's the most devastating is the Javan rhino, which has less than 70 in their population, and it's just been declining like in the past years. In addition to the huge decrease in the rhino species, the Telegraph reports that during a poaching incident, one of the home guards are guards that guard rhinos because to prevent poachers from attacking. They have like actual human guards for rhinos, and there was actually an attack where 4 poachers opened fire on guards, and one of them had passed away. So not only is there a threat to rhinos' lives, but there's a threat to human lives directly, and unfortunately we have lost some people to it. So society should really recognize the severity of this issue, and they can do that by becoming aware of rhino poaching and working with the World Wildlife Fund, and therefore we will move towards ending the horrid hunt of rhinos. Okay, so rhino poaching has to be stopped. It's easier said than done, right? I'm sure you're asking yourself, what can I possibly do to help? But you and everyone you know can do something in the fight to save rhinos. The World Wildlife Fund is an organization dedicated to the conservation of wildlife and its environment. And the organization is calling for everyday people like yourselves to help them save creatures such as rhinos. Through the Wildlife Fund, you can stand up against poaching by pledging to stop wildlife crime and also commit to preserving nature's beauty for future generations. The World Wildlife Fund is pushing for governments to protect endangered animals through means of law enforcement, as well as working to reduce demand for these wildlife parts such as rhino horns. By pledging to this organization, it will be known that you are standing behind the World Wildlife Fund as human population shifts its support to rhino conservation through the World Wildlife Fund. Rhino poaching will die out due to the decreased demand of rhino horns and increased support of conservation. Make your voice heard and stand against poaching. Another thing anyone can do to reverse the damage done to the rhino population is to donate to the World Wildlife Fund organization for their efforts in rhino conservation. Anyone can do this. I've personally done it because I really love rhinos. One of the things the World Wildlife has begun to do is transport rhinos to locations where they have a better chance of survival. So they airlift them out and they give them a tracking device, and that way they're in a less vulnerable environment for them. And this all needs to be funded by donations. So the rhino horn or DNA analysis they use is called the RODIS, and it just keeps track of all, which one belongs to which family, like where they came from, and it keeps track of them so they know who exactly, or where exactly they got poached. It gives a better chance of also bringing people to justice, but also brings down poaching. So the World Wildlife Fund's efforts have already been proven to be a success. For example, a wildlife issue that the World Wildlife Fund has taken under their wing is panda conservation. And the giant panda species is now categorized as vulnerable rather than endangered, thanks to the World Wildlife Fund. China's 4th National Giant Panda Survey stated that there has been a 16.8% increase in wild panda numbers over the past decade and an 11.8% increase of giant pandas' geographic range since 2003, which is a big deal. When looking at how this organization's effort have made a difference in species conservation for the giant panda, it is to be concluded that donating to the World Wildlife Fund and standing with this organization will also make a difference in the fight against rhino poaching. And there's a cute picture of a panda. No, what did I do? Okay. Okay. So that's baby rhino. Once these rhinos are gone, they are gone. There's no coming back from extinction. Imagine this, a world where children do not know what rhinos are because these animals no longer exist. Unfortunately, poaching has presented this hypothetical situation as a real threat. If rhinos are wiped out, it will leave a huge mark on society through economic, social, and environmental means. Luckily, this does not have to become a reality. By donating to the World Wildlife Fund, a difference in endangered status of rhinos can be made. This organization has the passion to make rhino conservation successful, but it is all for nothing if the voices of the people are not supporting them. World Wildlife Fund needs your help in funding, but also in teaming up against rhino poaching. Pledging to this organization is crucial because the World Wildlife Fund's efforts is for each individual's benefit. The mission of rhino conservation is so that we will continue to have these special animals in the world. If you do not stand with the World Wildlife Fund, their efforts will be almost for nothing. This is all for you generations to come so that they can have rhinos in their world just as we have. By standing with the World Wildlife Fund, you can make a difference in rhino conservation and start to move towards the end of poaching. Yes, you can save the rhinos. Oh, so cute. Okay. And that's my work side. Thank you.